right, let me take a look at the setup here. Got a clicker. There we go, fantastic. Hey folks, how's everybody doing tonight? I'm seeing some thumbs up, maybe a few thumbs in the middle, hopefully no thumbs down today. Welcome to Explore Engineering Week and welcome to Burris Auditorium. My name is Jeremy Wilson. I'm the undergraduate program coordinator for the Department of Chemical Engineering, and it's a real pleasure to talk with you today about my major and about the fantastic program we have over in Chem E. Welcome as well. Y'all haven't been here that long. I know I'm not the first to mention this, and I probably won't be the last. Welcome to Virginia Tech. Welcome to the College of Engineering, and welcome home, Hokies. Man, lost my place in my notes already. That does not bode well, but we'll make it work. A lot of you are here for things that are not chemical engineering, and that's okay. We have fantastic programs across this college. There are no wrong answers whatsoever in what you do eventually choose to major in. So even if you're not here for Chem E, I hope that you get to learn a little bit about our program, and maybe at some point you're talking to a neighbor, a friend, a roommate about engineering in general, and maybe they're a little interested in what we do. You'll be able to tell them a little bit more. So I want to begin from first principles, really, which is this question of what's chemical engineering, right? When we think about engineering, generally speaking, you have a basic idea in your head of what it is, right? If I say mechanical engineering, you've probably got a sense of what mechanical engineering is. If I say aerospace engineering, you've got a sense that they probably work with aerospace stuff, right? Chemical engineering is a little bit harder to define, and that's why I want to start here. And let's not start with a definition, let's start with a question, which is, where do we see chemical engineering? I saw a gesture over there that was, I think, this, indicating everywhere, maybe? Was that your intent? I like that. I like that a lot. But let's be a bit more specific. What other industries, what other areas do we maybe see chemical engineering? Y'all can't hear me if I do that, sorry. Yes, sir. Cleaning supplies, absolutely. Clorox Company employs a lot of our graduates. Yes, sir. Oil, absolutely. Petrochemicals are a huge part of chemical engineering. I'm also going to posit the alternative. Alternative energy is also chemical engineering. Who makes batteries? Chemical engineers, along with electrical engineers, of course. What else? Where else do we see? Yes, sir. Rocket propellants, yes. What is rocket propellants except for chemicals, right? One other big one that a lot of people may or may not think of, pharmaceuticals, right? Pharmaceuticals are created by chemical engineers. We also see it in food. Gentleman in the front mentioned cleaning products, but consumer goods in general are made by chemical engineers. Everything from the medication you take to the oil you use in your car to the food you eat every day, all of this was touched by a chemical engineer to some greater or lesser degree. So we've got a sense of where chemical engineering is, but now let's move towards maybe a little bit more focused definition. And here's where I have to admit something to you folks. I'm not a chemical engineer. I'm actually, by training, a teacher. So I'm coming at this from a very different perspective from some of my colleagues in the department. But I've spoken with them a lot over the past few years, and I've had a lot of great conversations with really smart people about how we define chemical engineering. And this is my favorite definition. Transforming matter into a more useful form. Cool, great definition, pithy, we like it. Give us something more concrete to work with. What sort of transformations? What do you mean by a more useful form? What are we working with here? Anybody like coffee? Yes, yes we do. And if you don't yet, you've still got a few years of college. So If you have ever made a cup of coffee, you have done chemical engineering. Each and every one of you, in some way, is a chemical engineer already. And this applies, by the way, to you too, if you're more of a tea drinker. The processes are a little bit different, but you are still a chemical engineer, each and every one of you, if you've done that. So when we do chemical engineering with coffee, we start with raw materials, right? We start with coffee beans, we start with water, we start with a grinder, a press, a separator, and then we take that matter, right, that raw material, and we perform a set of what are called unit operations on it. Anybody familiar with a unit operation? You may have encountered it a little bit. A couple people? Excellent. It's a sort of discrete process, either physical or chemical, that you use on a material to transform it. So, we grind the beans. That is a physical transformation from raw bean into coffee grounds, right? We boil water. That is changing it from its liquid form to its gaseous form, right? That is a unit operation. And then we steep and we separate, right? Again, unit operations. This entire process is chemical engineering in practice. And then there's a bunch of other parts to it, a bunch of other parts that make this really interesting. Things like, how does temperature affect it, right? If you have a coffee that you create with a certain temperature of water versus another temperature of water, what does that do to the coffee, right? How does that affect the flavor? How does that affect the time it takes to make it, right? Similarly, what about the grind, right? How small and how finely ground, or how not finely ground, are the grounds, right? That affects the taste as well. Other things like the amount of time that you're taking, or the filtration system that you use, or even the process that you use, right? Do you do a drip feeder? Do you do a French press? Is it an espresso, right? These are all different ways that you as a chemical engineer could make coffee, right? And then there's the question of what are we trying to make with it, right? Are we optimizing for flavor? And what do we mean by flavor? Some people like it more bitter than others. Some people like it more of a sweet taste. Are we optimizing for time? Do we want to make as much as possible in a shorter amount of time? Or do we want to make a lot of it, right? Think about, I don't know, McDonald's, right? Anybody had a McCafe? They make a lot of the stuff, right? The chemical process is different. And so you, as a chemical engineer, are dealing with all of these variables, optimizing these processes in a way where you are transforming raw material, transforming matter into a more useful form. To put it another way, and this is my department head's favorite definition, chemical engineers make and move the molecules that the world needs. And I think there's a very important part of that statement that's not actually underlined. I should have underlined it. It's the world needs, right? The world needs chemical engineers. They need what chemical engineers, what you might make, whether it's cleaning products, whether it's a vaccine, whether it's ibuprofen, whether it's food. The world needs you. The world needs chemical engineers. And you may have gathered by now that chemical engineering is really, really broad. It's hard to put in a box, right? The mere fact that it's hard to define helps reinforce that, right? And chemical engineering is an extremely broad major. We have students who go into everything from renewable energy resources to food and drink to pharmaceuticals, everything you can possibly imagine. We have a student right now who's making coatings for rockets for SpaceX, right? Everything you can imagine where there is a chemical process happening and a chemical production happening, there is a chemical engineer. And so if you know you want to be an engineer, but aren't entirely sure what kind, this actually might be a pretty good route for you to take, because you can take chemical engineering anywhere you want to go. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But just to give you a sense of the different options you have as a chemical engineer, here are some of our recent alumni's job titles. Process engineer, that's maybe the most common one, but you see things like data analyst. We had 4 nuclear engineers last year. Environmental consultant, cell engineer, I don't know what that is, but that seems pretty cool. Risk engineer, maybe you want to work with safety. Maybe you want to work in pharmaceuticals as a drug development engineer. Maybe you care a lot about clean water, and you can do that as a water treatment consultant. The sky really is the limit with a chemical engineering degree. So that's all cool. What do chemical engineers study? I'm glad you asked. The chemical engineering curriculum is pretty straightforward, all things considered. You may think it's a ton of chemistry. It's some chemistry, 2 years. General Chemistry 1, General Chemistry 2, Orgo 1, Orgo 2. It is the most in the College of Engineering, I believe. But what you'll also notice is that it's 2 years of math up through differential equations and a full year of physics. And that's an important part of my message to you folks. Chemical engineering is not just chemistry. There's chemistry, don't get me wrong, but there's also a lot of physics, and there's a lot of math, and it's all bound together in a fundamentally unique discipline. Now, do you need to absolutely love chemistry with all your heart to be a chemical engineer? Not really. Maybe you need to like it a little bit, but it's not all chemistry. There's a lot more to it than that. You also learn about reaction engineering. So how do we create these molecules, right? How do we build a chemical reactor in order to make these transformed molecules that we need? How do we move it around? That's another fundamental question, right? If we've got hydrogen peroxide and we've got several million liters of the stuff, how do we move that around? Somebody's got to figure that out, and that is the duty of the chemical engineer. Same with heat, right? We are dealing with potentially substances of significantly higher or lower heat than their surrounding areas. How do we deal with that? And scale. Let's talk, let me give you an example there of what I mean by scale. Y'all lived through the COVID-19 pandemic, I assume. That was a rough time for everybody, but we did eventually get a vaccine, right? That was created by scientists in a lab, probably biologists, chemists, all sorts of amazing, brilliant minds working on that. How many vaccines can you make in a lab? A few dozen, a couple of hundred maybe. So who makes millions? That's the chemical engineer's job, right? That's what we mean by scale. Somebody has to make enough for everybody. Enough of what? Enough of everything. Enough food, enough medication, enough energy supplies. The chemical engineer is responsible for that. The capstone of your time as a chemical engineer is what we call the Unit Operations Lab, UO Lab. It's in our lab in Hancock 209. If any of y'all have been to Hancock, what's left of it is pretty much our lab. You spend a summer doing a 4-credit lab class where you are using the machinery, the tools of a chemical engineer in a controlled lab environment, and are able to learn about what you'll do eventually as a full-fledged chemical engineer. This is typically taken in Blacksburg over the summer, but you've actually got several options. You can take it during the school year, split over 2 semesters, and you can also take it abroad. It's hard to study abroad as an engineer. Our curriculum is so packed, right? Our curriculums are very tightly woven together. You've got to take A to take B to take C to take D, right? We're very proud of the fact that our students have the opportunity to study in Copenhagen, Denmark, or in Bochum, Germany, as part of their UO lab experience. And Chemie is full of amazing opportunities. I encourage you, whatever you end up studying, to explore your opportunities within your major. Chemical engineering's got some, but every major has a lot. One of the things that you can do is specialize your studies. We've got 3 specialty tracks within our program, aligning with some of the department's interests, our professors' interests, as well as what we know you are interested in. So climate and energy solutions is one. Computational and data sciences is another, and that's one you might not really think about when it comes to chemical engineering, right? How are you using data sciences? Well, you can use data science, computational modeling, algorithms to solve chemical engineering problems. To give you an example of that, one of our faculty, Dr. Sanket Deshmukh, during the COVID pandemic, was interested in identifying chemicals that killed the COVID virus. How do you do that? Well, you could take tens of thousands of chemicals and run experiments on them, or you could do some computational modeling. And that's what Dr. Deshmukh did. He was able to take these chemicals and model how they interact with the COVID virus in order to narrow down from tens of thousands of possible chemicals to a dozen. You can test a dozen. And so he was able to use computational modeling to solve what is fundamentally a chemical engineering problem. And if that's something you're interested in, our department can support that. And of course, healthcare technologies. A huge part of what chemical engineers do is support the pharmaceutical industry, support the healthcare industry, and we allow you to specialize your studies around that if that's something you're interested in. We also have two design teams. You're engineers, you design, right? You build. The first of our engineering design teams is called ChemiCube, and it is exactly what it says on the tin. Build a chemical reactor inside a 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot cube, and then you actually get to pitch it as a product. Anybody seen Shark Tank? Great show, or at least fun show. It involves going to potential investors and saying, here is my product, I want you to invest in it. That's part of what ChemiCube does. They have to take their cube product and go to investors, this is all mock, and say, here is a product that I want you to invest in. Our students are going to the national competition this year. They are extremely prestigious in the number of awards they've won, and they created a carbon capturing and carbon regeneration reactor inside that 1 foot cube that uses algae. Now, I am not going to pretend I know how it works, but I think that's pretty neat. Our other design team is ChemiCar, which builds a shoebox-sized car powered entirely by chemical reactions. Everything from the physical chassis of the car to the propulsion mechanism to the brake mechanism to the electronics are built by our students. A couple of years ago, they built, their propulsion system was powered by some analog to vitamin C, and apparently it made the entire room smell of oranges for a good while afterwards. So I don't know that they do that anymore, but there you go. We also have an incredible student organization called the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, AICHE. Almost every ChemE is a member, and any ChemE can be a member. And this organization offers mentorship, tutoring, social events, volunteer work, networking, opportunities to grow yourself as a professional. By the way, who attended Expo today? Oh, yeah, I did. How was the experience? Good? It's a tough one, isn't it? Because there's a lot of people. It's a lot. If it was your first time going to a big career fair like that, it's okay if you felt a bit overwhelmed. You'll get some practice in. You'll do fantastic. You also get to intern or co-op. A co-op, for those of you who aren't familiar with it yet, is an internship essentially that you do during the school year. So instead of taking classes here in Blacksburg, you'd be in Hopewell, Virginia, working at a paper mill or something along those lines. And per person, we lead the entire university in internships and co-ops. At Virginia Tech, less than 1% of students will do an internship or a co-op. In chemical engineering, it's about 30%. So we lead the university, maybe not in absolute numbers. It sounds like mechanical might be in the lead there this year, but per person, chemical engineering. And our students have worked with some amazing companies you've heard of: Clorox, DuPont, ExxonMobil, PepsiCo, Anheuser-Busch is looking for interns, Pfizer, Volvo, and Colgate-Palmolive. And this runs the gamut of industries, right? Everything from cleaning products to energy to specialty chemicals, consumer goods, even automobiles. I don't know how that happened, but there you go. And that's just a few of them. You also get to conduct undergraduate research. Anybody interested in doing research, by the way? I'm seeing a good number of hands. That's awesome. I strongly encourage you to do so. And it's not too early for you to start. It's not too early for you to go ahead and start talking to professors about your interests in working in their labs. I'd encourage you to do so when you get a chance. But about 30% of our students will do undergraduate research, and they do so with world-renowned faculty. To give you a sense of what some of our professors are doing, at the top left, we had Dr. William Ducker developed an antimicrobial coating to deal with, again, the COVID epidemic. At the bottom left, you can see Dr. Raja Kapalan and her team. They do tissue engineering, so regenerating cells and using those in the body for medical purposes. At the top right, you can see an ad for a product called Electrast, that's what it is. That was actually developed by our department head as a new cardiovascular ultrasound agent. And in the bottom right, you can see Dr. Kareem, who has unfortunately left us to go to a sister school in the state that we shall not name. But he's their department head, so, you know, it's fine. Anyway, he did research in catalysis, so energy efficiency, right? Those are just a few of the opportunities you have in undergraduate research in chemical engineering. So, with all this said, we must beg the question, why should you study chemical engineering? Well, I mentioned this already, and I think it's worth mentioning again. The chemical engineer I've seen called the universal engineer because of the sheer number of things you can do with this degree. If you want to go into business, you can do so with a chemical engineering degree. Do you want to be a world-renowned technical lead, a specialist in whatever field you want to do? Chemical engineering allows that. Do you want to do sales? We have students who do that. Do you want to go to law school? We have 2 students right now who are getting ready to take the LSAT. Do you want to become a physician? I've been communicating with an alumni who practices down in Florida. Whatever you want to do, whatever field you want to go into, and whatever role you envision for yourself, chemical engineering could be a great route for you. And you can solve some of the world's most pressing problems. Energy and climate change. Who's going to solve that? It's chemical engineers. What about dealing with the next pandemic or the next big disease, the next big pharmaceutical breakthrough? Chemical engineers will be instrumental in that. Maybe you're concerned with sustainability, with making sure that food is available for everybody at an affordable price. That too will be solved by a chemical engineer. You can make a difference in the world as a chemical engineer because remember, you're making and moving the molecules that the world needs. And you can build a really meaningful career out of it. To get down to brass tacks and tell you what you want to know, median starting salary for a chemical engineer in 2023 was about $75,000, with a median salary for all chemical engineers at about $150,000. That's a good living. That's a very good living. It's a high demand position. Chemical engineers are always needed, and it's a global industry. If you want to travel, there are chemical plants all over the world. Not a bad option to be able to take your career all over the world. And chemical engineers are always going to be needed. There's always going to be chemical plants. There's always going to be a need for chemical engineers. And it's flexible. I've harped on that. I won't say anymore. But you can do a lot with your chemical engineering degree. And that brings me to the end of my particular presentation. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for listening. Y'all have a great night.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. So what I'd like to do now is just take a little bit of break and get you up and kind of moving around. I know last night, those of you who were here, you heard from Chris Williams from Mechanical Engineering. So if you want, let's just all stand up and just shake your body out. We're going to take a little break. Also, while you're doing that, I'd like for you to introduce yourself to the person beside of you if you don't know who they are, and make a new friend. All right, so how many of you have a new friend now? Does anyone meet someone actually new? Yeah, a couple of you? I think it's so important in our college to connect with each other when you have these opportunities, so definitely encourage you to do that in your classes if you haven't already been doing so. When you're sitting in your chemistry class, if those of you are in chemistry or physics or your math or any of those classes, just introduce yourself to someone because you will never know what kind of relationship you have with them. Networking is so important. So those of you who did go to Engineering Expo, this is kind of good practice to kind of meet and greet people. It can be exhausting, I'm not going to lie, even as an extrovert. But definitely take those small opportunities to meet each other. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues in electrical and computer engineering to talk us through electrical and computer engineering.
Hi, guys. Well, everybody welcomes you, so let me do the same, welcome you. My name is Virgilio Centeno, a professor in electrical engineering. I'm also class of 85. I'm an alumni of Virginia Tech. So as an alumni, I also welcome you, okay? And I want to tell you a little bit about our department, okay? In electrical and computer engineering, like the name says, we have 2 degrees. One is electrical engineering, the other one is computer engineering. Now, each of these degrees has 6 separate majors. And I understand how you feel because I've been there, right? You go to college, you think you know what you want, but you see other things, you start exploring. Now you have this guy coming in here and saying, yeah, you can choose of 12 possible majors and go in and all that. And you start going like, no, that's not for me, too many options. We're looking at it in a different way. This is a very flexible department in the way of letting you choose things, okay? And I know from my experience that, at the beginning, we really don't know. I started as a chemistry major, then I moved to chemical engineering, and then I moved to electrical engineering. And even inside electrical engineering, I started in the communications area back then, and then I moved to what they call power, which is basically energy area, and that's what I've been working on since then, okay? But I appreciated the flexibility I have, and I appreciate now the flexibility that we have for you on these 12 different majors in a single program, okay? Now, what's the flexibility here? Well, you all have a common first year, more or less, for all engineers. So copying from the flexibility that the college offers, we also try to make it flexible for us. So your sophomore year will be the same, whether you are computer engineering or electrical engineering. And that's done on purpose. We really want you to have a common base, but that gives you the flexibility that even after your sophomore year, you do not have to decide exactly what you want on your major. It's only after the end of the sophomore year that you have to decide, okay, do I really want to go computer or do I want to do electrical? But guess what? By then, you have a better knowledge. You've gone through 1 year of electrical and computer engineering. You know what you like and what you don't like. Okay? At least to differentiate between the two. And yes, there's a very different type of fields. Okay? They connect, but they're really different on what they demand on you. So even at the end of your sophomore year, you still have a lot of choices there. I can do electrical or computer. And it's after that that you start deciding, okay, now I want to do electrical on this field with a minor on this other thing in the computer end, okay? But by then you have more knowledge. Hopefully you have gone to some more expos and you have done some internships and you have an experience what the world will demand from you. And then you start deciding what's best for you. And that's the whole college experience, regardless whether you're going into electrical or something else, okay? Now, this one is a very crowded slide. This is what we prepare for the students on the classes they're going to take and all that. And it's not to scare you. I mean, you all have to take classes. You have your check sheets and things to care about. But it's to show you the flexibility on this. Your first year is common to everybody. Second year is common to all ECEs. You take all the same classes. Even in your junior year, okay? If you're in electrical, it's all the same for all the electricals. If you're in computer, it's almost all the same for all in computers. There's a little bit variation there, but it is there. It's only in your spring semester junior year where in electrical you start to make a decision there. You have all these courses, 3,000 level, you know, we have these XX. Well, we basically have 5 specific majors and 1 general one in electrical. And we have an introductory courses for each one of those. Well, that junior year, you will decide which of the introductory courses you will not take, because you got to take 4 out of the 5. You still have a lot of basic knowledge before going into your senior year, which that gives you a lot of flexibility into things. You basically have dropped 1 possible major, but you still have other 4 you can. And by then, you know more of what you want, and you can make that decision easily, okay? But you still have the flexibility. Yeah, I really like this, but I'm going to continue exploring these others. It's until you get to your senior year when you really make your final decision. And you better do so by then, okay? So, yes, we offer you a bunch of majors, but we offer you the flexibility to explore them and then to decide which one is the one that best fits what you want out of your career if you want to go into electrical and computer engineering. So, what are those majors? Well, on the computer engineering side, we have 1 general computer engineering. This is what you're going to find in any other university if you go to, they have this general computer engineering. So you learn basically the basics of everything, and you go in deep in a few courses, and that's it. This one is a good one. Okay, give you more flexibility. You want to go to grad school, you want to go to industry work and learn from there, this one will be a good one. Then we have chip scale integration. Wow, what is that? Well, nowadays we want to put everything in a single chip. In the past we used to, communicate them all together and all that. Now it is more efficient if you can put single thing in a single chip. And this one is becoming a really hot potato politically, okay? Where are most chips, especially the good ones, made? Taiwan, yes. And that's a big hot thing between China and the United States, right? We design it, we build them in Taiwan, everybody uses it. It's an advantage technologically. But having it there in Taiwan is not a good thing. So there's a lot of investment on the government now to try to move all that technology back home. Well, you can do it only if you have the people to work on it. And this is the kind of fields that help you train into that. You can also take some chemical engineering and work on the ships and all that. Right? But this is the kind of fields on that. We have also something called controlled robotics and autonomy. We don't do robotics. We do mostly control of the robots and things. When I give you the majors in electrical engineering, that one is in both sides. Why? It's the computer side and it's the software side of these things. So you concentrate on the hardware or the software. But everything is being automated now, even cars. You can have a car that drives itself and all that. That's autonomy. Okay? How you program that, how you get the hardware to things, how you get it to sense, where is it going, where it's going to crash with something and all that. That's all you learn in robotics and control and things. Then we have a major called machine learning. We have learned now that we can teach computers to take a lot of data and learn from there. You know, see the trends that are going on and all that. That's basically the way we humans learn, right? When you get old like me, you've seen a lot of trends and things, and it's easier to spot things. Well, computers do it a lot faster. And that's what machine learning is help you a lot. So if you like statistics and things like that, that's a really good field, and also very hot field, okay? Those classes are usually crowded. We have to limit access and things like that. We also have a network and cybersecurity major. What is that? Well, everything is networked now, right? You all connect to the Virginia Tech network to get your things and all that, connect to the Ethernet, all that. Those are the networks. That communication that decides that this data or information that you send here gets to the right person, your mother back in California or some other place, that's the software that it goes into that. And it's not a simple thing, okay, to make sure it gets there, and it gets there securely. And that's why you also have this cybersecurity. To make sure it gets there, it has to be flexible, but because it's flexible, it's also easy to hack and things like that. And then you have to make defenses and all that, and that's become big. Because there are some governments and some people who either get something out of it or get money out of this thing, and it's become a big problem. Okay, that flexibility we added is becoming a problem. The last one is software systems. Everything nowadays is controlled by computer. And that means you will have a controlling program software there, something that monitors, a system that will look at things. And this is what software system does. You're able to bring computers and systems of different places and make it work as a whole. Okay? I work in energy systems and work a lot with utilities. Utilities look at it through computers. The network may be hardware and all that, but look at it as a computer type system. And this is what these people can earn. That's on the computer side. Electrical side, well, we have general electrical engineering. What's the difference on that? Remember, you can take 4 out of the 5 intro courses. Well, if you're in general engineering, you got to take all 5. And then a few more senior courses in whatever area you specialize. And then you become a general electrical engineering, which means you can work almost anywhere where electrical engineers are needed. You also have applied electromagnetics. Electromagnetics classes that we teach are one of the hardest on the college because that's the latest. That's magnetic fields, electric field, how they interact. That's also how we develop new things. So applied electromagnetics is trying to work on the new things. Photonics, okay, quantum computing, things like that. Space systems. You gotta put things into space. Well, space is not the same as Earth, and the things don't work the same. These guys figure out how to make them work and how to take advantage of being in space. We have controlled robotics and autonomy, just like in computer. These guys focus on the hardware side of things. Okay, it's not just the software that controls the thing, but the hardware that sets the limits on the software that controls the things. My favorite one is energy and power electronics. I've been working in this field for a long time, and it's a field that's changing a lot, okay? Chemical engineering gives us the solar panels. Well, we have to figure out how we're gonna use those solar panels because they're basically DC batteries, and we prefer to work with AC, okay? And how are you gonna do that? This is a really hot thing to do. I work a lot on projects related to data centers. Why? Those things consume an incredible amount of energy. Okay? Some of the data centers that we have in Northern Virginia and all that will consume the same amount of energy as the city of Roanoke, to give you an idea. And how you get that energy there, make sure they use it, make sure they cool these computers and all that, that's a big problem, actually a headache for the utilities in Virginia, because the state wants to keep putting data centers, and they're saying, yeah, we can put them there, but where are we going to get the energy and how are we going to get it there? That's a big problem. Well, we're working on it. We're getting solutions on that. Micro nanosystems, what is that? Well, those are those chips we talk about that we're competing with China to try to get them here and all that. You can work on the hardware side or the software side of these things. The last one there is wireless communication and signal processing. This one used to be called communications because communication in the past was done in wires. Now it's all done wireless, right? We all connected here to your phone company, to the Virginia Tech network. Your Bluetooth connects to the other things there. These all wireless communication. How is it done? How you maintain the difference in these communication systems and all that. That's what you're going to learn there. Okay? So, yes, a bunch of mayors. And by the way, I forgot to mention, starting this fall, our mayors, all of them, you only need 120 credits. We are one of the first departments in the college that got it down to the minimum, which is 120 credits, to get a degree in electrical and computer engineers. Okay? And especially in computer engineering, very few schools out there will allow you to go out with that. And we just did it by saying, well, you know, there's a lot of electives there you really don't need to take. You can take it if you want, but we're not going to make it a requirement for your degree on things. Okay. Now, with the flexibility we give you, we need to also help you choose your way. And we have a team of 4 very good advisors that will work with you. But you need to contact them, okay? So now they're not going to come to you, but if you go to them, they're going to help you the best they can. You can go and say, you know, I'm not sure which way I want to go, but I'm interested on these things and all that. They will help you plot a path to that. That will give you the flexibility when you need it, right? But you need to contact them. And they have tons of experience. Whenever I have a problem with a student, we need to solve an attack, first person I contact is the student advisor, because nobody knows more of the students at Virginia Tech than the advisors that you get. That's true in any department. So we have a very good team of advisors, and if you come to ECE, I hope you take advantage of that, because they're really good, and one of them will be here today answering questions. Now, we have plenty of opportunities for you to explore. It's not only the classes, but we have other places you can go into things, including some of the best student organizations we have on campus and around the world. So we'll talk more a little bit this later. Careers, there's plenty of careers. Electrical and computer engineering, almost anywhere. I work in the energy field. One of the things I tell the people is like, no matter where you go, people are going to use energy, so you can work anywhere. That's one of the reasons I studied that. I wasn't sure where I was going to go, and I said, well, with this one, I can go anywhere. And I stay here. But I could have gone anywhere. Okay? So that's the thing. You want to work in the defense industry, or you're a cadet and working in different things. The Navy uses a lot of computer and electrical engineering, so does the Air Force, so does the Army, the Coast Guards, all of those. They use a lot of electrical and computer engineers. They even do a lot of research of their own because they have specific applications and things like that. So it's plenty of there on that work. Utilities, not only electrical utilities, communication utilities, everybody needs electrical and computer engineers to work into these things. A lot of the startups, they need electrical and computer engineers regardless of what the application is they're working on. So there's plenty of things out there. You want to go to grad school? Any of the engineering fields at Virginia Tech, if you get a good grades, good GPA and all that, you can go to grad school here, you can go to grad school almost any school in the country, okay? Because at Virginia Tech, we're good, and they know we're good. So if we say you graduated from here, you're a good student, they will take you. So if you want to go to grad school, we'll prepare you for that. You can go almost anywhere you want, okay? Now, where to work? This is a small sample of some of the companies you may work on. We took the most famous ones, put them there, okay? But nowadays, I will encourage you, if you can work in a big company, the training you get there is amazing. But if you want to work in a startup, a small company, those are great learning experiences because you got to do everything yourself. And that's the best way of learning, by doing everything. So yes, you can work on the big companies and they teach you a lot, but you can also go and work on the small companies and you will learn a lot on your own, okay? Now, what are the facilities we offer you? Well, we have a bunch of labs you have to take and go there and do things, but we also have a lab that's open for you to go and explore things. You want to build a project? Well, you can put a proposal together, take it to the department and say, I would like to build these and use your lab for these things. We evaluate it. We check it out and say, yeah, that sounds like a sound proposal. It's a good thing. We buy the parts for you. We give you access. We open the training because we cannot let you in a lab just like that. Okay, there are rules out there we have to follow. If you get hurt and all that, it's our responsibility. So we want to make sure you're not. But the labs are open as long as you take the training. Okay, and that lab that we have that we call the Open Lab, the Easy Amp Lab, actually came out of the students. About 15 years ago, we asked students, so what can we do to make it better, give you more experience and all that? And one student said, open the labs, because they couldn't get into the labs unless they were taking a class there. And the idea came like, yeah, we should have a place for these guys to play. And we have an open lab where students go and play and build their own things. What it shows you there are some of the examples of the things students have built. If you ever come to ECE, we can show you those, some of the really interesting things they've done. Like other departments, we also have undergrad research. Electrical engineering specifically does a lot of research. Right? When it comes to the college, we carry a big portion of it. And we always have projects for students. But even if you don't want to go into electrical engineering and all that, Transportation Institute, other places at the university, they need the students who know the computers, who know the electrical systems and all that to develop their systems. So plenty of opportunities to do research. You just have to go and talk with the faculty. We know that if you just started, you don't know much, we help you build your knowledge and become a good participant in our labs. You can also be part of many of the other efforts offered by the college, and they always need electrical engineers on that because electricity will be there, computers will be there, and your knowledge will be needed for those. We also have a very interesting senior design projects. These are usually industry funded. It's either industry or one of our faculty has a research project and they put in the money for it. On those, you always get a faculty to be your advisor for your group. You have somebody from industry who's also going to give you some help, but is going to be the person you have to render your work to. So these people are going to meet with you every other week and ask you, what have you done? The product is for them, and they will start demanding just like industry does. It's a really good experience. At the end, you have to produce something. And we give you all the help to do that, but you have to do it. Okay? And it's mimic for the industry, but it's also a great preparation for you, and it's an opportunity you have to take advantage for. Because just like you're learning from these people from industry, they're looking at you because they're saying, these are possible people we can hire. And if you're really good, they will hire you. That's what they do these things for us. They actually lose money when they do these things. But this is the best way for them to get good people. So take advantage of these opportunities. We have a bunch of student organizations, but the most important there is the first one there, the IEEE, the Institute for Electrical and Electronics Engineering. This is the largest technical professional organization in the world. Okay, it's worldwide. It's about close to 500,000 engineers who belong to this thing. Okay, everywhere you go, you're going to find chapters of that, and we do have a student chapter that does a bunch of activities with this thing. Not only that, 2 years ago, the president of the IEEE worldwide was an ECE faculty. Okay? That's how much we are really involved with these things. And most of our student ambassadors, all that, they're members of the IEEE. And professionally, we tell students, become a member, because later on in life, this is going to help you to continue developing and things like that. So, there's plenty of ways to learn about ECE. You can go and visit our site. You can write to our advisors and say, I'm interested. Can you tell me a little bit more of this or that major? And they will be happy to answer your questions, okay? If you want to do and say, you know, I want to do a minor in nuclear, but I don't know if it combines. Nuclear is a form of energy. Yes, it combines, okay? Almost any minor that you can find in a university will combine with something on the electricity. If you don't like those, we have a bunch of minors too in our own field that you can go to. So we offer you a very, very flexible path. Yes, multiple choices, but we help you make the right choice. You have to make the choice once you learn about the field, not ahead of it, okay? And hopefully that will help you choose if you want to become an electrical and computer engineering with us. But that's my presentation for you. Thank you for coming here.
Oops, do that. There it is. All right, how you doing? I am with Computer Science. I'm Dave McPherson. I'm the Director of Academic Operations. I'm also an instructor in the department. I've been in CS 5 years now. Before that, I was in ECE, and before that, I was in CS. So I've been around a while, done a whole lot of things, and we're going to talk about computer science and why you might want to do computer science. So the question, what is computer science? A bit like what is chemical engineering? It's everywhere, right? So a bit like chemical engineering, it ties a lot of things together, right? So the things you can do with computer science you will find across most disciplines. It's not engineering, it's computer science because it's science behind what we're doing and how we use computers. So I like to think about computer science as being solving problems with computers. Sometimes that's with programming, sometimes that's not, but you can see a whole lot of different things here. We've got, I'm not going to read them because I can't. They're too small. But we do a bunch of different things, and I think you can probably read that because you have better eyes. What are you going to learn? Right, we do our traditional computer science. We've got experiential learning. We've got various, actually a capstone class, which we'll talk about. And we cover across our entire, sorry, I'm tired. I don't know about you guys. All right, sorry. We do a lot of hands-on stuff. I don't stand either. That's part of the problem. We do a lot of hands-on things. I teach our Intro to Programming course. I teach our Intro to Computer Organization course. I teach our comparative language class. And in almost every one of the classes that we do, it's very hands-on, very project-based. Most of the things we do, you're producing some sort of product, so to speak, every week or weekly. With the introduction of generative AI, that's changing a bit. My classes now have a lot more hands-on in-class activities where you're doing things every day in class. And so I suspect in our computer science curriculum, you're going to see a whole lot of that as well, where you're doing programming in our programming courses. You're doing maybe writing or hands-on things in classes even that have programming aspects. So there'll be a whole lot of things where you're applying what you're learning on a daily basis. Okay. In our program, we have 3 majors within our 1 degree. The one on your left, the computer science degree, that's our traditional degree. That's going to be what most of our students do. It's if you're thinking software engineer or that type of track, that's what we're thinking about there. You're going to learn about software engineering, about writing programs, debugging, thinking about how are you going to solve a problem. Might be mobile development, might be app development, might be cloud development, could be all kinds of things. Could be embedded programming, could be working with computer engineers and electro engineers and chemical engineers, putting things together on computers, on chips, doing all kinds of stuff like that. The middle one there is secure computing, so if you're interested in computer security, making our software systems safe and secure, that's the one we have there for that one. The one on the right is our data-centric, which these days tends to lend itself a lot to machine learning and artificial intelligence. So if that's an interest of yours, a lot of our large data, we're talking terabytes of information. How do you process that? How do you handle that? How do you do things with that? That's what that right one's going to do. And all of them are similar. You'll take a lot of the same classes. You might substitute an elective here or there for one of the other classes. So that's sort of how these things work together. Most of our majors, and we have a lot of majors, are in the general computer science major, but we do have people in all of them. If the major is not for you, if you know you want to be a chemical engineer or a mining engineer, you could get a minor. A minor is going to complement any degree out there. We have a lot of computer engineers that get a computer science degree, or electrical engineers that get a computer science degree. Last time I checked or heard, I think we have somebody in almost every major at Virginia Tech getting a minor in computer science. Not all of them, but at least one person in almost every major on campus has gotten a minor in CS. And there you can see, again, the sort of same three ideas, more or less. Computer science, just the broad computer science. Human-computer interaction, which is a lot of things. It could be virtual reality, it could be extended reality, it could be the psychology behind computer science. That's sort of what falls into that category. And the cybersecurity minor we actually share with ECE. So it's a joint minor between the two departments, again, focusing on cybersecurity. So if you're an EE or a CPE, you could get that minor shared between the two departments and focus on the security of your physical system or your software system. So we have 3 majors and 3 minors. Yes, so in our curriculum, you're going to be taking courses in these areas: human-computer interaction, I mentioned just a minute ago, knowledge, information, and data. So again, this is looking at how do we handle data, how do we handle libraries of information, media and creative computing. So if you're more interested in creating art or creating games, there's that aspect of this. Scientific computing, maybe you really like crunching numbers or really looking at how do we analyze all kinds of stuff. That falls into scientific computing. I did some of this with large sparse matrices. So you have giant amounts of data that is sort of rectangular in shape with just maybe data down the center. So how do you handle that? That type of thing. And systems and networking, so how do we actually take this computer that sits here and get it on the network? How do we write the software that runs this computer system? That type of software. So we have all kinds of various areas within our curriculum that you can take classes in, both required classes and elective classes that focus into what you would like to do. So some highlights of our electives. I mentioned some of these. Mobile app development, so if you're Android or iOS, we have classes in both of those. Cloud software, so if you're looking to write the next best mail program to take out Outlook, that would be great. Intermediate software design, so if you're thinking about how do we design software, that's that class. Reverse software engineering, if you've ever taken an executable, a program, and wanted to know what it does, what function calls does it do? Does it contain malware? Does it contain a virus? Can you find those things? Reverse software engineering is in there. GUIs, or graphical user interfaces, the things we see on our computer screens, how do we program those? How do we make the buttons? How do we make the art? How do we make the menus? All of those things are in there. Graphics is sort of the extension of that. So now how do we actually draw the pixels on the screen? How do we actually arrange those things? Computer vision, this is a new area that we're bringing some faculty in. So how, given a computer, given a camera, how can the computer know what it's looking at? Automated cars, all of those things are using these things all the time. Extended reality I mentioned earlier, so part of virtual reality, but maybe how do you take heads-up display and extend what you're looking at. So it's not just a pure virtual reality, but looking at the reality we have now and then adding information to it. More machine learning, artificial intelligence these days is everywhere. Everyone loves those. Those are relatively, I think, common sense at this point, or at least people have a sense of what they are. Database systems management is one of our most popular elective classes, and actually the picture there is a student in one of our database systems classes using augmented reality to explore what's the right word? Places in Egypt. The instructor was from Egypt, and she brought in this to help with the data and how do we analyze it, and then how can we explore it? So how can we put that stuff together? Computational biology and bioinformatics. So if you tend to be like biology, there's a huge area of how do you take all of the information surrounding like the Human Genome Project, if you're familiar with that? How do we crunch that? How do we sequence DNA? That type of thing. If you're interested in starting a business, we have a class on starting a CS business. So how can you take your idea and make money out of it? And Algorithms in Society, which is a joint effort between us and the Science and Technology Department, where we're looking more at the why as opposed to the how. So it's looking at answering the question of, okay, great, we can do this, but should we do this? So a whole bunch of different things that you can take and sort of round out what you would like to do with computer science. That's our curriculum. We do all the normal things like our introduction to programming and our data structures and our data structures 2 and our systems courses and our networking courses and all the things you might expect to find in a computer science curriculum. But these are the things that, to me, make your choice of computer science interesting because you get to choose the things that interest you. Student research. There's a couple choices here. So we have a group here called BURGS, Broadening Undergraduate Research Group. And inside of BURGS, there are some research areas that they have. So the top left there is the human genome. We've got computer performance for machine learning, ransomware detection on the far right, internet access in the bottom left, and then the middle one there is security and privacy and augmented reality. So these are things that students are doing with our faculty in a group setting where they can learn to research, with other people and come up with things that they want to do. So this is a group that we have called BURGS that a lot of students are involved in. Outside of that, we have research labs, and there's a whole bunch of them here. The one is the top right one that's called REACH, which is about accessibility. We've got one there for Synergy, which is putting a whole bunch of different groups together. Society and AI and language is the far right. So again, AI, large language models, is really popular these days. Trustworthy computing, so some cybersecurity and code world, looking at software. We also have not only that, but we have centers where you can do research. Sangani Center, which is up in Northern Virginia, looking at, I think, security. We've got the critical technology and applied science. Creative arts, again, if you're interested in those types of things and not just doing computer science. Human-computer interaction, we have a very large one. If you've been in the Moss, well, no, it's not the Moss Arts Center anymore. It's the Center for the Arts at Virginia Tech. Has the Cube, which is a large 3D space, immersive space you can go into. That's in there. So we have lots of centers that you can also do research in. So we've got student-led research that you could be involved in. We've got research by our faculty, and we've also got these centers. So we have lots of places, if you're interested in research, you can do that. Outside of that, we have student groups. We have 2 different hack groups here. So if you're interested in hackathons, Hack Violet does one in the spring. VT Hacks, I think, does them in the fall. These are 2 groups you can get involved in. You don't have to have any background or experience at all. You can go in there find people, make a team. It's a 24-hour, I think, or 48-hour thing where you go in, start Friday, finish Sunday with the product, and win some pretty cool prizes. I know people won, like, tablets and things. We also have other student groups, CS-sponsored student groups. So a lot like the IEEE Society, we have the Association for Women in Computing. We also have the ACM, which is just the Association for Computing Machinery, the American Indian Society and Engineering Society of Virginia Tech, the Hackers again, Women in Cybersecurity, ColorStack, CS Squared, Girls Who Code, and Virginia Tech Science Careers at Virginia Tech. That last one has been really active this week with the job fairs and doing mock interviews and helping students when they get the opportunities to talk to companies so they know what they're talking about and they can talk coherently with the recruiters. We also have study abroads. This has started maybe 2 or 3 years ago. We've done Egypt. We've been doing Egypt for a while now. And Switzerland, I think, started last year. The Switzerland one, I believe, is a full semester. So you would go to Switzerland and take classes there. The Egypt one, you would do part of your capstone experience, if I remember correctly. And you would take the class here, and then you would travel to Egypt for, I think, a week to 10 days and actually meet the client you've been working with and do the study abroad that way. So we have a couple different study abroads, and I think we're trying to do more. It is a little tricky to do CS abroad because you need those people that can teach the classes. So anyway, so we have those. Oh, yes. If you're interested in a master's degree, a lot of our students go and get a master's degree. So you can actually do a 4+1 degree here, both in our Master's of Engineering program, which, as you might see on the left, is a coursework only option, allows you to get a master's degree, or the more traditional MS degree, Master's of Science degree. You do a thesis for that one. The MEng degree, you just sort of do coursework. You can complete your 4+1 here in Blacksburg or up in the Northern Virginia campus, if that's your preference. And they both allow you to have that credential in just 5 years. I know I've had some students that have a lot of credits coming into their freshman year, and they can actually do this in 4 years because they effectively have their first year done. They have English and science and math and all that stuff sort of knocked out of the way, and they're able to get this done in 4 years. So not saying that everybody can do it in 4 years, but I know some students who have. And so there's that interest there if you have that. If grad programs are not your thing, you can certainly get a job coming out of here. You can see we have on the far right there a list of companies that hire our graduates. This is certainly not the only list of people that hire our graduates, but we do have quite a bit. We do have our own CS Source Career Fair, which is for CS majors only, and it's companies that are part of our consortium. You get to talk to them, and they get to talk to you, and it's just CS majors, and so that is a nice opportunity that we offer. What are you going to learn? So the technical skills you can see on the left, these are the types of things that you might understand or hopefully understand would be part of a computer science degree. This is what our companies are looking for from you as a computer scientist, all of the various skills that you would have on the right side. Soft skills, I can certainly say that as a computer scientist, the thinking process behind how to solve a problem becomes critical. And the more you're able to understand, oh, I see there's a problem here, how can I figure out what the problem is, that is really what you're learning, whether it's in a data structures class or an algorithms class or a different kind of class. It's these soft skills really that help you with those technical skills. And you're gonna learn a lot of that. Patience, I like that one. You definitely will learn some patience in computer science because you have to be patient when things aren't working. Why are these important? We've talked to a lot of our industry sponsors, and they tell us this is what we're looking for, right? And it goes across everything, computer sciences and engineering, because I can't think of an engineering discipline that doesn't use a computer somewhere, and not just computer science, but almost any industry. I talked to one of my undergrad TAs today. She's going to work for, not Disney in Florida, but the other one. She's working on roller coasters. That's going to be her full-time job. Like, she's going to make roller coasters, which is pretty cool. So entertainment, I had a student a year ago that worked for HBO. They were part of the HBO app, the mobile app. So in entertainment, you name it, all kinds of things, and the skills you have here will help you with those things. So hopefully you can see yourself in computer science. I don't think we have any ambassadors here. I could be wrong about that. If you are interested in getting in touch with us, our main office is in Torg 1160. So if you come into the main doors of Torg by the atrium, it's down the hall there. You can talk to any of the advisors that are in there. We have, 6 or 8 now. The phone number there, if you want to call it. You can email that csundergrad@vt.edu or csundergrad@cs.vt.edu, and you can get in touch with our undergraduate program committee people, and they can get back in touch with you. There's also a new website, students.cs.vt.edu, that is chock full of information about all the stuff that we have. And our Twitter, and our Instagram, and our Facebook. All right.
Excellent. Sorry, I turned my mic off. So once we do the panel, we will then have tables set outside of the auditorium area here. So if there's further questions that you want to ask folks, you have an opportunity to do that at the end of the evening as well. So hopefully this will be great. So what we'll do first, we'll start with the panelists, and something I totally forgot last night, but you all won't tell anyone, is if you all will please introduce yourselves and give me why you're here tonight, and then we'll get right into the questions. So I'll start with you in chemical engineering. Oh, wait, I got you.
Oh, awesome.
And you can leave it.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's really cool. All right, awesome. All right. Hey, guys. Yeah, I'm Catherine Sellinger. I'm a fifth-year senior in chemical engineering, and I actually have a minor in computer science as well. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Will Bump. I'm also a fifth-year senior in chemical engineering, and I just have a bachelor's in chemical engineering.
Hello everyone, my name is Miles. I'm electrical engineering senior. I have minors in green and nuclear engineering.
Hello, I'm Yuri. I'm a senior in computer engineering, graduating this semester in studying software systems.
Hi, I'm Dave. Feedback. Yeah, you're software, right? Yeah, that's why he didn't know. The electrical engineer would have turned that off. Sorry, I'm kidding.
He was kidding.
I'm a teacher in computer science. I was not a CS undergrad. I was a math major. But anyway, yeah, I'm here. And we normally do have an ambassador here, but they didn't make it tonight. Sorry.
Yeah, this week is challenging across the board with space getting this venue, but also with Engineering Expo going on. So perhaps that's why you all are so sharply dressed today. So we'll start with our first question. I'll start with you in chemical engineering. Why should a student consider your degree?
Yeah, so basically, the reason why I chose chemical engineering initially was because I liked how general it kind of can be. So people often characterize mechanical engineering as a sort of generalist degree because you can go into so many different fields. That's also so true with chemical engineering. And a lot of the fields you can go into might not be ones that you would initially think of for a chemical engineer. So for example, I worked in biotechnology. I have friends working in, one of my friends actually got a job for in an aerospace company working as a materials engineer. So a lot of different industries. And the other cool thing about chemical engineering is it kind of puts you anywhere you want to be in a given process. So you can be the person like designing the equipment for a particular manufacturing process, kind of like a mechanical engineer. You could be the person designing the chemical plant, which is a lot of what we learn in our degree. You could also be the person designing, for example, like a pharmaceutical. So you could be the person doing research and development to design a pharmaceutical or the guy manufacturing the pharmaceutical. So it's pretty cool, puts you all over the place. Yeah.
I would say a couple of things come to mind when I think about why you should choose chemical engineering. It's highly rewarding, both in the class and out the class. We have a very high job placement, great salaries across most disciplines. We are ranked one of the highest, which is great. Second, the faculty is fantastic, and all the students are a lot of fun. I know that varies by year, but the faculty is well versed in their classes and their research, so a lot of opportunities there. And third, our student organizations are very active, and they prepare you for industry and life in many ways, and I highly recommend those.
Yeah, so I think for electrical engineering, I think it's such a broad major and it's involved in like every day of our lives, like technology we use to the power that's distributed to all of our homes. And I think it allows you to kind of pivot in your career into any kind of sector you want. And I think, like it was mentioned before, you can kind of tie in any of your interests. So if you're interested in gaming or if you're interested in nuclear like me, I tied in electrical engineering. So I definitely think it's a very broad and open major that allows you to kind of go into a lot of different sectors. So.
Yeah, and also something that is amazing about our department is how many different projects you can work on. During my time here, I've worked designing PCBs, which is just circuit design and electronics, and then I've also worked with an integration of both circuit design and then lower level programming, and I've also had experience with obstacle detection and avoidance, which is mostly software, so it really gives you a good span of different things you can work on, and you're really just building smart things, which is something I think is very cool.
Yeah, so I teach a lot of our intro classes in a lot of departments, and for software engineering in general, I think I ask students if they like puzzles and if they like logic puzzles. And my experience has been that students that enjoy puzzles, like jigsaw puzzles or like the 5 people run a race and the tallest one came in first and so on, and what was the order of the people. People that enjoy those kinds of things tend to enjoy software engineering, tend to enjoy problem solving. And so computer science to me is really all about problem solving. How can you solve a problem with a computer, whether it's in a program or some other way, but how can you do that? And so if you're a student that enjoys like figuring out how something works, a lot of computer scientists can't rest until they figure out that bug or figure out why that thing didn't do what it was supposed to do. And so that's one reason I think you should be a CS major. We have a lot of fun. There's a lot of us. We have great faculty. We have amazing faculty. There's one guy in particular. I'm kidding. It's a lot of work. It's hard work. Any of these majors are not simple majors. You're going to work for all of them. You can do a lot of things. You can work in a lot of industries like all of these majors. So I think really it comes down to what do you enjoy? Do you enjoy doing those tasks? And if so, then that's the right place. We don't need all of you to be computer scientists. We need some to be computer scientists, some to be computer engineers, some electrical, some mechanical, some chemical. We need all of them. So find the one that speaks to you, find the one that you want to do, and I think you'll find the right one.
Excellent, thank you. So the next question we have prepared for you is, what was the neatest aspect of your undergrad experience that you've taken advantage of?
So this one's pretty easy because I love it. But in chemical engineering, we have 2 really awesome design teams. We have ChemiCar and ChemiCube, and I'm on ChemiCube, and it's been such a great experience and such a great opportunity. We got to travel to San Diego. That was pretty fun for our most recent competition. And it also offers potential great leadership experience, which I've now gained from that experience too, being the president this year. And in addition to that, it also exposes you to certain things that you might not get real hands-on experience with during your general education. So for example, we have a business team, so you get exposure to marketing, to developing a pitch for a product, and also into like intellectual property strategy to protect your design. And in addition to that, it also gives you great research and development experience. So definitely my design team, I think that's a big piece of advice that I want to give to everyone. Like, join a design team. They're so much fun. Great experiences, great opportunity, for sure.
Katie's definitely got a great point there. A lot of people come here and they're expecting some sort of formal education where you attend class for 4 years and you come out with a degree. And some people do that. I wouldn't recommend it. What I would do is I would go find the passion you have and learn real-world skills that apply to you somewhere outside of the classroom. And so for me, that was on my co-op. So I worked with a company that made activated carbon, and I was there for 7 months. And I learned probably more there in different ways, but many real-world skills, responsibility, what a 40-hour work week in a chemical plant feels like. You learn a lot out of these experiences that you would never get in a classroom. And that's an option, but I would make that a requirement for yourself. I really would. It helps in many ways that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, so for me, I think it would be taking advantage of the several different professional development organizations that Virginia Tech offers and that are under some of these different majors. I think going into school and college, you don't really have a good grasp on how to navigate getting internships, talking to companies, writing resumes, and I don't think you really get that experience in the classroom. So I think for me, last year I was served as the National Society of Black Engineers president, and that organization helped me get a lot of my internships and gain that experience that I really needed to be confident in talking to companies and presenting myself and being able to really present myself well. So
The best thing I did during my undergrad was taking advantage of people who are more knowledgeable than me and more far in advance. So professors, I did research under 2 professors for the 3 years I've been here, and they were both extremely good mentors, but also people who are, further in engineering than I am. So people in industry that I met through my research lab or maybe friends of friends. So just taking advantage of people that know more than me and asking a lot of questions, because every person you talk to has something to tell you that you don't know. You always have something to learn from every person. You just got to ask the right questions. So being curious and trying to take advantage of all the really brilliant people we have here.
Yeah, so I actually was an undergrad here, so I can answer that question that way. I encourage my students this, even in all my classes. I let groups come in and do presentations about what they do. I would encourage you to find your people, whether it's in one of these professional organizations, whether it's in some sort of recreational institute, whether it's the YMCA, whether it's a fraternity, a sorority, whatever it is. Find the people that do the things you want to do, and you're gonna find a good place for you. If you can find a leadership position, that's amazing. You're going to get a lot of opportunities for growth in areas that you might not have normally gotten from just being a passenger in that organization. So try to find those things. I think I found some in my undergrad experience here that were really pivotal in things that I ended up doing. And so I would encourage you to look for those opportunities to grow, learn from other people, learn from the people that have been here before you, to learn that people from have experience. And I think you're going to end up finding those places you need to be through doing that.
Excellent. So I think we have time for one more question. So I'm going to pitch it to you all on the panel. For remaining question, do you prefer 3, 4, or 5? 3? All right, we're going to go with 3. So question number 3. As students are trying to determine the best degree for them, what is one piece of advice you would give them to help make that decision?
So this is something that I feel kind of strongly about, and I actually talked about it recently with one of my best friend's little sisters who wants to do engineering here. And so anyway, basically what I kind of think is that it's important to kind of figure out what job you want, or generally what industry you want to work in, and then kind of work backwards from there, and then choose your major based upon the career you want, and not be stuck picking a career because you picked a certain major, if that makes sense. So, like for example, I knew I kind of wanted to work in like biotech, pharmaceuticals. I thought I wanted to be a biomedical engineer. To do that, I actually looked at job openings. Tons of them were for chemical engineers. And when I worked in biotech, I reported to 2 chemical engineers. So that definitely helps. And then in addition to that, also being aware of like graduate school requirements for a particular job. So just go into it being aware that if I want to do drug development, I will need to get, or not need, but very likely will need to do a doctorate. So just be prepared for grad school as well when you're making your decision.
Yeah, those are definitely great points. And I think that it's often hard, as I hear that. It's great when you have a passion from the beginning. For me, I loved science and chemistry really early on, so it was kind of a no-brainer to go do this track. But I know that's often not the case. And so I would also think about things that you've done in the past that you were passionate about, that you enjoyed in high school, and also think about, don't take it face value. Like if you enjoyed math, obviously there's a lot that goes into math. Did you like the problem-solving aspect? Dig into why you enjoy what subjects you did, and try to apply that towards your future.
Yeah, so I think the best advice I could give would be to job search now. And I say that to say that I think it's important to look at the jobs that you would be able to get if you were to graduate today with the degree you would want. Because I think it's important to kind of see what's out there, what's available, and kind of like she mentioned, seeing how that kind of aligns with your interests. Because I think sometimes your interests don't always directly correlate to the actual job and how what you're doing in the job. So I definitely think it's important to do your research now, start looking at companies you're interested in, industries that you might be interested in, just so that it's not like a surprise when you get to the end of your 4 years and there's nothing that interests you. So
Yeah, going off of what he said, it's really important that you know what to expect from your degree. So talk to people, talk to ambassadors in each department, see what they're actually doing, see what jobs they're going into, what they're going to be doing for the rest of your lives. It's a really important decision, and think about the ways you've been gifted and what kind of change you want to make in society. Like each one of you has some kind of gift that you should really hone into and use it to just leave this place a better place than you saw it when you first came into college. So yeah, just find your gifts and work hard to really use them the best you can.
Yeah, my answer is a little different. So I came in, I wanted to be, I'm not going to name the engineering field, one of the engineering fields that's here tonight, and I worked really hard, got into it, and then realized I was not good at it at all. And I was like, oh, this is not the right fit for me, because I hadn't done some of the things these folks were saying. I hadn't looked at what I was going to be doing. I didn't really know much about it when I went into it. So I was looking at what I enjoyed, the things, my passions, and I liked math. And so I decided to be a math major. And so I tried some different things. I didn't know anything about computer science at that time. The only thing I knew was the people in my dorm were sitting under their bunks all day typing. I didn't want to do that. Had I known more about it at that point, I probably would have, because most of my youth was doing computer stuff my whole life, and I just didn't recognize it. So I came back to computer science later because I really enjoy it. So I would say don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to try different things. Think about why you're doing something. I will tell you that from my experience, I have a former student who graduated and had a six-figure job. This particular student was highly motivated, was highly hardworking, was very intelligent, did fantastic. I've had other students who want to be that student, and the only motivation they have was the paycheck at the end of the day, and they didn't make it because they were focused on, oh, I want to be a software engineer working for Microsoft making $200K a year, but that was the only thing they wanted to do. They didn't want to do any of the hard work. So don't think about necessarily what you're going to do at the end of the day, but think about what do I have to do to get there. And if you enjoy what you're doing and you enjoy the process of going through your major and learning the things and putting the work in, you will get to that end point, whether it's in computer science, electrical engineering, computer engineering, chemical engineering. You'll be there at the end of the day, but it's hard work. All of these majors are work. They're not easy majors. You will be a busy, busy person for the next 4 years, hopefully just 4 years. I did the victory lap and took 5. And so I know that it's not an easy major for any of these, whether it's any of the engineering majors. And so you will be putting the effort in, and you have to be willing to put the work in to get to the end. So don't be afraid to change. Try on some different things. You might have come here thinking you want to be CS or CPE, but maybe Chemi sounds really cool, or mining, or mechanical, or one of the other ones. Check out the other fields, see what's there. You might find you really have a passion that you didn't think about because, oh, it wasn't cool, I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Excellent. Thank you all so much, and thanks for responding to those questions. And please give our panelists a round of applause. So you all are free to exit the stage, and if you're here for your booth, you can go ahead and go to the back of the auditorium and hang out there. And Dave, remember, I put your tablecloth underneath the table out there. And if you all are going to help with the table at the end, feel free to exit that way as well.
Are you okay if I go?
Yeah.
That's not, I'll stay. Is that all right?
Do we have students out there?
I'll go look.
Okay.
Are there supposed to be?
It's okay, though.
Okay. Are you all right?
Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to put up the attendance for tonight. So I do really appreciate you all your attention for these sessions. I hope to see you all again tomorrow afternoon. So if you cannot get the QR code to work, you'll just need to come toward the front of the auditorium, and what they'll do is they'll open the shutter so you can see the QR code. Please make sure you take the time to actually fill out that survey. It's really critical for us in the College of Engineering. And if you need to access the link, you can use that link as well. If you were not here last night and you didn't get a sticker, Jeremy's going to take some of the College of Engineering stickers to the back. So if you want to get an engineering sticker for your laptop like mine, it's really cool. So head out to the back and we'll see y'all tomorrow night.
Keeps on trying.